Welcome to the battlefield of brains, where strategy meets chaos and every move burns with intensity. Watch grandmasters clash, pieces fall, and legends rise. Sevian launches nf3, letting his knight stride forward confidently, probing Wesley So's central intentions early. Wesley So answers with d5, staking firm central space and signaling a disciplined readiness for coming strategic clashes. Sevian pushes d4, reinforcing his central grip while inviting dynamic tension that hints at an upcoming explosive struggle. Wesley develops nf6 smoothly, eyeing key central squares and preparing to counterpunch any overextension from Sevian's setup. Sevian slams down c4, expanding aggressively on the queen side and challenging Wesley to resolve mounting central pressure quickly. Wesley replies with e6, reinforcing dark squares and constructing a compact fortress ready to unleash timely counterplay later. Sevian brings out nc3, adding harmonious pressure across the center and preparing potential breaks that may disrupt Wesley's structure. Wesley plays cheeks, stabilizing his d5 pawn and crafting a resilient foundation that resists Sevian's expanding central presence. Sevian supports his center with e3, calmly bolstering development while keeping tactical options hidden beneath an apparently quiet stance. Wesley develops nbd7, strengthening coordination among his pieces and preparing flexible reactions to Sevian's evolving structural ambitions. Sevian places qc2, supporting key pawn advances and hinting at potential kingside pressure that might unsettle Wesley's defenses. Wesley answers with bd6, centralizing his bishop aggressively and challenging Sevian to justify his ambitious spatial intentions. Sevian mirrors with bd3, directing calm pressure toward Wesley's kingside and preparing harmonious castling to stabilize the battlefield. Wesley castles kingside, tucking his monarch safely while readying rook activity that could erupt against Sevian's central posture. Sevian responds by castling, bringing his king to shelter and signaling the shift toward sharper battles brewing across the board. Wesley captures on c4, breaking central symmetry and provoking immediate tension that forces Sevian to choose an energetic reply. Sevian recaptures bxcs4, restoring structure while activating his bishop with newfound scope aimed directly at Wesley's defensive lines. Wesley advances b5, striking at the bishop and seizing queenside space to unbalance Sevian before deeper conflicts ignite. Sevian withdraws to bd3, retaining pressure on critical diagonals while regrouping calmly against Wesley's expanding queenside ambitions. Wesley develops bb7, unfailing long-range influence toward Sevian's king and preparing latent tactics that may burst open later. Sevian advances f3, nudging Wesley's queenside structure and preparing a subtle retreat square as hidden tensions quietly gather. Wesley answers with r8, sliding his rook onto the open file and hinting at future pressure that could detonate unexpectedly. Sevian leaps in with eng5, unleashing a bold threat toward Wesley's kingside and announcing sharper intentions with daring energy. Wesley strikes back with c5, cracking the center open and challenging Sevian to prove the soundness of his aggressive knight jump. Sevian sacrifices with bxs7, exploding into Wesley's defenses and forcing immediate decisions as tactical fireworks ignite brightly. Wesley sidesteps to kite, maintaining composure while letting the battlefield swirl with complications around his embattled monarch. Sevian drives forward with power, throwing fuel onto the attack and challenging Wesley to withstand waves of aggressive pressure. Wesley counters with g6, constructing a spiked barrier while inviting Sevian to commit deeper into dangerously unclear territory. Sevian continues with bxg6, ripping open kingside lines and daring Wesley to survive the storm now roaring toward his camp. Wesley responds fxg6, accepting the material imbalance and opening channels for his pieces to counterattack with vicious intent. Sevian's knight captures on b5, stabbing into Wesley's queenside and threatening to harvest loose pawns while maintaining tactical heat. Wesley calmly plays qa7, centralizing his queen and setting up defensive resources that double as dangerous counter-threats. Sevian lashes out with qxg6, lunging deep into Wesley's territory and amplifying pressure against every fragile dark square weakness. Wesley develops but bite, shielding key diagonals and quietly preparing coordinated counterplay that may suddenly reverse the initiative. Sevian strikes with dxe5, undermining Wesley's center and keeping the battle brutally sharp as lines peel open everywhere. Wesley retakes with rxe5, activating his rook aggressively and challenging Sevian's queen to justify her forward, exposed position. Sevian jumps end4, redirecting his knight toward central dominance and reinforcing threats swirling around Wesley's uneasy monarch. Wesley fires a j8, training his rook along the open g-file and beginning a fierce counterattack aimed directly at Sevian's overextended queen. Sevian thrusts qhr6, forcing Wesley backward while hoping to maintain initiative before Black's gathering forces erupt dangerously. Wesley blocks with na7, interposing calmly while preparing a coiled counterstrike that could punish Sevian's relentless aggression. Sevian pushes e4, surging through the center with renewed ambition as he attempts to disrupt Wesley's tightening grip over the battlefield. Wesley responds nf6, regrouping efficiently and preparing his pieces to strike back with disciplined pressure against Sevian's expanding central presence. Sevian advances b4, grabbing queenside space and trying to deflect Wesley's forces while hoping to relieve intensifying tension around his embattled king. Wesley smashes through with rcx5, sacrificing material boldly to rip open attacking lines and unleash terrifying pressure towards Sevian's exposed monarch. Sevian recaptures fcc5, taking the rook but inadvertently widening critical files that Wesley can soon exploit with fierce accelerating counterplay. Wesley develops b5, planting the bishop with venomous intent and directing razor-sharp threats towards Sevian's shaky kingside defenses. Sevian answers bbt2, reinforcing his diagonals and hoping the extra stability slows Wesley's rapidly building attacking momentum. Wesley counters with iyong, launching a predatory leap that intensifies tactical threats and forces Sevian into uncomfortable defensive decisions. Sevian retreats qh5, clinging to active squares while scrambling to shield his king from Wesley's tightening and merciless assault. Wesley captures qxc5, eliminating the queen's pressure and seizing total control as his attack transforms into a crushing, coordinated offensive. Sevian replies qh3, desperately repositioning his queen to cover vital squares while Wesley's forces continue tightening around his vulnerable king. Wesley plays qa3, delivering a precise check that forces Sevian backward and maintains constant pressure on his deteriorating defensive structure. Sevian blocks with qxe3, exchanging queens in hopes of reducing the unbearable tension threatening to collapse his entire kingside. Wesley recaptures c3, stepping forward with dominance as his knight infiltrates dangerously, amplifying threats throughout Sevian's fractured position. Sevian develops rf2, rushing to reinforce weakened lines and attempting to coordinate surviving pieces against Wesley's overwhelming pressure. Wesley activates eng5, repositioning the knight aggressively, encircling Sevian's defenses like a predator ready for the finishing strike. Sevian shifts Kona, stepping aside cautiously while striving to escape the tightening tactical noose Wesley has engineered around his king. Wesley jumps in c4, invading with precision and piling threats onto key squares as Sevian's fragmented defense nears complete collapse. Sevian plays bc3, trying to create counterplay and shield essential diagonals, while Wesley's active pieces continue dominating the board. Wesley answers next c4, capturing decisively and increasing material advantage as his forces swarm irresistibly toward the final decisive breakthrough. Sevian brings rf7, lunging forward with hopeful activity as he tries to spark counterplay amid Wesley's relentlessly tightening domination. Wesley captures eng exceeds d3, eliminating a key defender and further dismantling Sevian's structure while preparing unstoppable central infiltration. Sevian responds rxbcb7, snatching material desperately as he searches for any glimmer of resistance against Wesley's surging initiative. Wesley strikes bx4, removing another cornerstone of Sevian's defense and opening lethal lanes toward the increasingly exposed white king. Sevian activates rf1, trying to regroup his pieces into a last defensive stand as Wesley's forces encircle with chilling precision. Wesley pressures with rg7, reinforcing his attack and preparing decisive blows that threaten to overwhelm Sevian's collapsing kingside shelter. Sevian retreats rebite, hoping to create tactical tricks while his position continues crumbling under Wesley's unrelenting assault. Wesley answers k7, calmly stepping aside and signaling full confidence as he readies to deliver the final crushing combinations. Sevian pushes g3, attempting to give his king breathing room, despite Wesley's advantage growing into a near inescapable vice. Wesley drives f5, ripping open central lines and unleashing fresh threats that push Sevian's position to the brink of disaster. Sevian defends with rf8, desperately stacking rooks in hopes of resisting Wesley's accelerating momentum across every critical file. Wesley jumps n3, planting the knight deep in enemy territory and creating overwhelming dual threats that suffocate Sevian's remaining defenses. Sevian advances h4, trying to distract Wesley with kingside activity as the position becomes increasingly impossible to salvage. Wesley counters n4, centralizing with terrifying force and tightening a tactical net that now threatens decisive material and mating threats. Sevian continues right, checking nervously as he searches for any miracle to slow Wesley's lethal initiative, converging on his king. Wesley steps kg6, walking forward boldly as his pieces dominate every sector and Sevian's checks offer no meaningful relief. Sevian thrusts, h5, attempting one last flare of activity, while his king remains hopelessly exposed to Wesley's coordinated attack. Wesley replies king a5, marching his king confidently into the fray, knowing Sevian lacks the resources to punish such fearless dominance. Sevian pushes h6, trying to generate perpetual harassment even as Wesley's forces stand ready to deliver the impending final blow. Wesley plays rf7, reinforcing the attack and preparing a conclusive tactical sequence that leaves Sevian with dwindling chances. Sevian advances 7, clinging to his last pawn hope, while desperately searching for counterplay against Wesley's overwhelming coordination. Wesley finishes with rf1, delivering a precise and deadly check that seals Sevian's fate and forces resignation in a collapsing position. I'll end the video here. Please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I'll keep finding the best and newest videos to share with you. Thank you so much, and I wish you all happiness and good health. Toda